name's Keegan, and I'm basically here to tell you about this little app that I use to draw. It's called Procreate. It does cost money, but I think it's like $14–15, and it's the best $14 to $15 I've ever spent. This is basically a tutorial on telling you how I use it. There are a lot of great tutorials out there to help you get used to Procreate, but this is how I use it. Anyway, about my hardware, I use a 2019 iPad, super basic, and I just use the compatible Apple Pen. If I was really bougie, I would probably buy a matte screen protector to help reduce with the slip and slide of the pen, but I've gotten so used to the glass screen protector that doesn't really bother me anymore. Anyway, Procreate is just down here. We'll open it up. As you can see, I do a lot of drawing on this. So the plus is what we go to get a new canvas. The untitled canvas down here is what I use for Instagram. It's a really good resolution for the size that Instagram allows to help reduce like pixelation and blurriness. Otherwise, you know, you can do your screen size. The rest I really don't tamper with, but I use untitled canvas because I haven't figured out how to name it Instagram, so to speak. With select, you can select canvases, say to delete. There is no rubbish bin, so once you delete them, they are gone forever. You can also select a canvas to duplicate it, and now you got two of these pieces of artwork. And you can also select to share, so say I want to email this to myself. I use PNGs, I don't know why, I don't know what it stands for, but PNG is what I use. And that's it for select. You can import like files. I use, like, say, there's a lot of people out there that use Procreate brushes, like they sell the brushes that they use, and you can purchase and download, and that's where you would import from here. You can also insert photos. Say you need like a hand reference. See, I've down here, I've used a hand reference, and you would import it, and you can put a layer over the top, and then so you can trace it and then import it into another piece of artwork where you need that hand reference, so to speak. Anyway, we'll get into this piece here. Any of you that recognize Spinel from Steven Universe, I felt in the mood to draw her, so here she is. So from left to right, we've got these little screw, like wrench you would call it, screwdriver. We'll go to start. Basically, as I said before, you can insert a file onto a canvas, insert a photo onto a canvas, which is really good. If you need help with anatomy, you can always insert like anatomy practice. Take a photo, also really handy if you need like a pose and you have no idea what it looks like in your head. Get a friend to do it. Take a photo, trace it out, and then you've got a really good, unique pose that you can work on for the rest. Adding text is handy. Say your handwriting isn't that good and you want to title it, or the character's saying something in a speech bubble, you can type it out, edit it, change color, change font. It's really handy. Cut, copy, and paste. Basically what you're probably used to on the computer. You cut something, it deletes from the page, but then you can paste it again. Copies what's on the layer, and then you can, of course, paste it again, and paste is obviously paste. And copy canvas copies all layers. So say I've got 20 layers, and I go copy canvas. It copies everything, not just what you've got selected. And that's it for this one. So you got canvas. I don't really mess with much here. I do use the drawing guide, which is handy if you want to write straight and draw boxes. You want to draw boxes, and if you draw a line and you hold it for a second, see how so wobbly that was? And you hold it, it actually straightens out for you. So that was really wobbly, and then it straightens. Draw, hold, straighten, and that's that. You go back, and you can turn that on and off. It's really handy. And you can edit it if you want the boxes to be smaller, so grid size here, edits it. I don't really mess with opacity, but it's like how much you see it. The thickness of the lines, if you want them more thick, more thin, helps you see it. And you can choose like the kind of lines you're getting. Like I don't mess with this, I just use the 2D grid because I just use it to draw boxes. And you can change the color of the lines just up the top here. I don't really flip, I use the flip canvas, but you know, obviously you can see on the screen what it does. I do use share quite a bit. because I'm on Instagram, Kawaii Kiki, if you're wondering. But because I don't have Instagram on my iPad, I share the actual canvas to my email, and then I download it from my email to my phone, and I export it as a PNG. So say I export it, I'd hit export, and then I would type Gmail, type in my email, all good to go. Otherwise, you can save image to your photo album, or send it to a friend on Messenger. It's pretty handy. I like it. Other than that, don't really mess with much here. Don't really touch this. But I do like time-lapse replay. It basically just shows you what you've done, like your progress over time. And I already had the torso done from a previous image, so I copied and pasted that onto this canvas, pasted onto this one, and moved on from there. The flipping of the canvas would be really handy if you want good anatomy. Say you want a really good symmetrical face, you would draw it the way you prefer it, because I'm used to doing 3/4 of a face, like the 3/4 view, where the head is turned slightly. It helps to flip it to make sure that it's good from both angles. It helps your eye view an image that you've been looking at maybe for an hour, a new fresh light. I really like it. But moving on, preferences. I do not touch this. This is too high tech for me. Again, there's some really good videos out there that probably might go through this. I don't touch this. This is too high tech for me. And obviously help will take you to the Procreate website if you want to ask any questions. Other than that, don't touch it. And then we've got the lasso tool just at the top. I use the freehand, which is already selected. It basically just allows you to draw a lasso over what you want to select, and then you tap the mouse and it lets you move it around. But we won't touch that because I like it the way it is. This also helps if you want to copy something. So say I want to copy this heart, I lasso it, go copy and paste, select it, and move it across. Super easy. And you can also say, I did this for the eyes, the hands, and the feet. Say you draw one of the hands, one of the eyes, really good, and you don't want to draw it again. I will select the eye, and then I will copy and paste it and move it across. You can probably tell because they are the exact same image. I did it with the arms and the hands as well as the feet. Because if you draw something once, good, why draw it again? It helps with like symmetrical faces, as I said, and it just makes the picture look more professional. I like, but each their own. Freehand is, what I said, you draw the lasso. Rectangle is a already drawn out rectangle for you, so you select it that way. It is also the same with an ellipse, just a fancy word for circle. And then obviously you select, do what you want. I only really use copy and paste. I don't like feather. I don't know what really save and load does. And clear is you would erase it. I don't use much of this. The opacity, the blurs, the sharpens, I don't touch it because it's too high tech for me. But I do like the hue, saturation, brightness. It helps me choose colors that actually look right together. Lets me play with the color of the line art. I tend to stick to a pinky brown. I just think it looks nicer on the eyes, and I color the line art a different way, which I will go into later. This series is 3 parts. I've got basic rundown of Procreate, then I've got a one on cleaning up line art, making really good line art, flows of dynamics and whatnot, and then the last part is start to finish on me coloring, shading, and rendering an image. So that's 3 parts. This is part 1, so obviously we'll keep going. And select is select. This is what I use to check anatomy. I just flip whatever's on the canvas. Like I just select what's on the layer. So this sketch is on this one layer, and then I just keep flipping to make sure it looks alright. Obviously you can probably tell that's flipped this way. The head looks a bit wonky, but when you go back it looks fine. Don't know what that is. It's probably something to do with the brain, but I only use the flip horizontal and flip vertical. I don't like distort or warp. It makes it too pixely, the lines, so I just stick to uniform, which selects the whole image. On the the side here on the left, we've got the size of the brush. So right now I've got my set up here. I use a soft, like a spray paint color for like soft details, thus I've named it soft details. I've got the same kind of brush, but it's slightly more solid. I use that for soft highlights. Then we've got the, again, same brush, but no softness to it, and I use that for base color. Then I've got my sketchy liner, which by the way, these are all standard brushes from other files here along here. These all come with the app, but I just use these, so I moved it into my own file, so I'm not searching for them. And yeah, this is the brush I use for sketching and line art, because I like a thick, kind of sketchy, blocky kind of line art, which has more character to it. So I tend to use my sketch for my line art, but I just clean it up, which again I'll go on to later. And I downloaded this from, I can't remember the name of the artist, but it was free. It was like a file, it was like a portrait brush set, and I just liked the way the freckles looked, so I ended up keeping that. But yeah, they're my brushes. We'll pick one. We'll go a new layer, so I'm not wrecking the sketch. But basically on the right here, we can pick the size. So say it says like 2%, obviously. The higher you go, the higher the brush. And same with the opacity is how much you see it. So this is full thickness. Then you bring it down and it's kind of slightly lighter. And then again, slightly lighter. And again, you can barely see that. And if I don't like something, again, this is probably skipping ahead, but if I don't like something at all that's on a layer, I just go clear. Gets rid of everything on the canvas, on that layer, so to speak. And then and that's it there. And underneath the opacity, we've got undo, redo, which, you know, undo, redo, redo, undo, all that, which is pretty self-explanatory. I don't use smudge. I'll show you what it does, but I personally don't like it. It just literally just lets you smudge whatever's on the screen. I'm not a fan. I blend a different way, a really lazy way, but I tend to stay away from that. But you know, there are really good tutorials out there that help you, that teach you how to use that smudge tool properly. It's just not really in my style. And then you've got the eraser, which is pretty self-explanatory. I draw something, I erase it out. But you can, again, change the size and the opacity of the eraser, the smudge, and the brush tool. So they're all, like, you can change them, basically. And you can make your own custom brush. I tend not to, you know, mess with that because I'm not smart enough. Again, there are some really good tutorials out there to help you and teach you how to customize your own brush. I am currently learning how to make my own stamp, like my own watermark. So I might do another video on how I did that later on. But right now we'll stick to this. Or go to layers. So I tend to work in, I work in layers. I work in folders. I might go to one of my other drawings. So we've got this one. This one's pretty good. So I'll walk you through all my layers. So we've got the sketch / line art down here. You can name them like this. So I go sketch. It helps you, you know, keep track of what you've done, what you're doing. But yeah, I work, so this is the sketch layer, and then I would do the base layers. So layer 3 here is the skin base layer. If I go into the close folder, we've got, you know, the orange base, the green base, and then you've got the antlers, and then the eyes. I work in layers and then I merge down. So that's basically how I do it, but we'll go into more detail just up here. So say I draw something here. Let's draw, we'll draw a heart on layer number 2, and of course you add the plus to do more layers, and you can swipe. I just did it then out of habit, but you can swipe left just to delete it, or duplicate it or lock it. Lock it means I'm pretty sure you can't accidentally delete it. Yeah, so you can't be like, oh, whoops, oh wait, no, can't delete it. Unlock it and then you can delete it. So say I draw, we'll draw a heart. Oh, too thick. We'll draw a heart. Say that's the line art, and then I want to color that heart. We'll go pink. So I tend to keep the base colors above the line art. Again, I'll explain that in more detail later on, but for now, let's just color that in. And see how you can still see the line art through the color? That's because the base is underneath the line art. So if I moved the line art below the base, it disappears because it works, of course, in layers. And say I like how that turned out, I would merge it down. That means, so again, you tap it, you go down and it merge down and it merges the two layers together. That means they are on one layer and they are one thing, so I can erase both elements. And I'll go into more detail about the type of layers, but for now you can change the opacity of what is on a layer. I'll show you an example with this sketch, but you can lower the opacity and see how it kind of disappears almost. I like this when I shade. Again, I'll go into more detail later on, but I use this quite heavily. Your layer is defaulted to normal. I don't mess around with a lot of these settings, but I love multiply. And I'll go into more detail about what that does and what that is and why I use it later on. But for now, we'll just keep moving forward. You can change the color of the background. You probably notice that my background is not white. The default is white, but I changed it to an off gray, kind of, so to speak, just to help the eyes. If you're staring at a screen for so long and it's white, it tends to hurt. But an off gray kind of helps the eyes adjust, but I'll show you the difference. So I've got white, and then I use this color here. So see how it kind of your eyes probably adjust a little better, you can see details a little more. I like it, and all my drawings have the gray background. So say you want to color your line art. This is where clipping mask comes in handy. It basically selects only what's on the layer below. So I would only be able to color what is selected, and this being the line art. So I can only, the color I'm implementing is going only on the line art. And you can probably see on the image, layer 3 here, I have actually drawn a big blot of paint, but because I've selected clipping mask, it only affects the image underneath, which this being the line art. And say I turn this off, the big ass mess on the screen. And I use this to color my line art, and again I'll go into more detail later on. Otherwise I don't really use much of this except maybe rename, merge down, which is helpful. I've gone down before, merged, I've shown you that already. And there are, again, great tutorials out there that go into great detail about masking and clipping layers, but I just use a clipping mask, and that just suits me fine. And then here we've got all the palettes that I use. Most of these, Ascend, Campfire, and Flourish, I'm pretty sure default palettes. I've got these 3 palettes here, Angry-chan, Hana, and Kazumi. My OCs, original characters, so I have palettes that I've created for them, but I would highly recommend googling, like, say you want a pastel color palette, you literally Google pastel color palette, save the image, then import the image, and color select each color. So say, hang on, I'll just do one quickly here. So we've got, this is the color palette, 1, 2, that didn't change, 1 color, 2, 3, 4. So okay, so that's the imported image you've got. I would want to create a new palette. get the palette in range so I can see it. Oh no, go back. So you've got the custom palette here. I just did it without realizing, but you literally just hold and it selects the color, then tap it in. Then hold, selects the color, tap it in, hold, selects color, tap it in. You can also rename by tapping and typing in what you want. I'll call this pink for now. And of course you can delete. Again, there's no really undoing deleting palettes and deleting layers. Actually no, deleting layers you can recover by doing undo, but there is no real recover for deleting a palette. Same with deleting a canvas. Up here, once you delete something, you can't retrieve it. There's no like rubbish bin or anything. So you got the palettes here. Obviously it's highlighted blue, so that's what you selected. We'll go the disc. This is probably what most people are familiar with. You know, pick your primary color. I will say, I know that probably isn't the correct term, but we've got the outside circle, which lets you pick, you know, the basis of your color. We'll go blue, so dark blue, and then you can move this inner circle to select, you know, is it really saturated and dark? Is it really light and pastel? Is it more on the grey tinge? Is it quite black, you know? And that's that one, the circle, and then you've got the classic, which I personally don't like. It's too much of a mess, but what we've got here, so we'll pick this blue. You've got the range of colors, then you've got the saturation, desaturation, so saturation quite potent, unsaturated, and then we've got light to dark, pretty self-explanatory. And then harmony, I don't tend to use, I don't really know what the big deal is, but I'm assuming, you know, pink and green go well together, purple and green go well together, blue and orange go well together, all that jazz. I don't really use this one, but you know, each their own. Value, I don't really mess with, but you've got, you know, the hue, what color, then you've got saturation, and then brightness, and then red, green, blue. Go for your life. Experimenting is the only thing I can highly recommend. So that's basically it. We've gone through all the basics of Procreate and how I use them, how I implement them, and what I find really handy. Though I have got 2 more parts to this series where you'll probably get a better idea of what these parts do, because you know, you will see me use them, in what situation I use them, and it's just better seeing something in motion than just me talking about it. So I highly recommend you tune in for the next 2. The next one I'll be going over line art, where I'll be turning this rough sketch right here into some good line art. And then the last one, I'll be doing a step-by-step process on how I color, shade, and render. I hope this was helpful, and I hope you get motivated to draw and do what makes you happy. Feel free to check me out on Kawaii Kiki on Instagram. I'll chuck up some of my pictures that I'm really motivated by, that I've done already, just to show you what I like and what I do, and all these were done on Procreate. So I will see you next time. See ya, bye.